Students, we're going to try something a little bit different this semester. We are going to use a Lightboard, which is essentially just like a whiteboard. I'm going to teach using the Lightboard in the same way that I would teach using a whiteboard. Making notes, drawing diagrams, often very poorly, just like I would in the classroom. The difference is you're going to be able to view this over and over again until you're tired of listening to me talk to make sure that you can understand the concepts. These are not going to be full 1-hour lectures. They're not going to be 50-minute lectures, and they're certainly not going to be 3-hour lectures. We're going to keep these to 15 to 20 minutes in length so that way we can condense the content. When we meet in the classroom or we meet online, you have the opportunity to ask more questions and expand on the material a little bit if there's something that doesn't quite make sense. So today we're going to talk about the role of the customer in strategic logistics management. So essentially, typically when we think of customer management, what do we think of? We often think of, well, that's a marketing responsibility. Marketing is typically responsible for managing customer relationships. And from your marketing courses and from some of your other supply chain courses, you understand that firms will often engage in customer relationship management programs in order to learn more about the customers, attempt to develop loyalty from the customers, and even design strategies and products and services that are unique to some customer groups and not necessarily other customer groups. Well, what we want to talk about today is, well, how does logistics fit into that? Does it really belong with CRM? Is there a role in logistics and CRM? And one of the things that we're going to learn today is that yes, logistics certainly does play a key role in customer relationship management. So let's begin by just revisiting your typical supply chain. You've seen this over and over again in most of your classes, and that is we're going to start with probably a manufacturer, and they're going to ship product to maybe a distributor, and they're going to ship product to a retailer, and they're going to ship product or somehow get the product into the hands of the final customer and hopefully make that customer very happy. What we need to understand is, does logistics have a role in this? Think back to the video that you looked at on Generation Like. All of the marketing efforts and social networking efforts that companies are engaging in order to learn more and more about the customer. Well, can logistics play a role in this aspect, and this aspect of managing customer expectations and relationships? And of course, from your basic supply chain classes, you know that they do. A late delivery here is probably going to impact that link and probably impact that link. Think for a second, if you ordered something right before Christmas during the peak shopping time this past year, what do we see all over the news? FedEx and UPS not being able to deliver packages on time. Well, is FedEx and UPS who most of these customers are upset with? Not necessarily. They're upset with Walmart and Target and Amazon and any of the other retailers or manufacturers that they purchase product from. So certainly, something happening here, or here is going to impact that customer's overall happiness. So it's important to understand that the customer does play a role, and logistics does play a role in maintaining customer satisfaction. As we think about these concepts and we think about, well, how do we incorporate that and how do we make that work from a logistics standpoint, we have to understand what type of firm is it that we're working for. What type of product do we sell, and what type of supply chain are we going to need in order to make sure that we can maintain generally satisfied customers? We have to keep in mind that when we talk about logistics and marketing, we talk about the 3 S's of the customer. First one is customer service. Customer service. We're all familiar with the concept of customer service. One of the things I want you to remember about customer service is, from a logistics standpoint, customer service is the collection of expectations and processes that a firm will put in place in order to manage customer expectations and meet customer expectations. we hope that our customer service efforts will lead to customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction is completely externally defined. We have no way of knowing and determining and measuring that, yes, we have created a satisfied customer. That's going to be completely determined by the customer themselves. We can act on and we can implement customer service strategies, but we can't necessarily determine what's going to lead to customer satisfaction. We can engage in customer service in order to create customer satisfaction with some level of confidence in, with regard to our expectations that it's going to lead to customer satisfaction, but without necessarily having that certainty. Finally, customer success. We have to be concerned about customer success, particularly when we're dealing with industrial supply chains and industrial customers. So the success of my customer, while I'm also concerned about satisfaction and maintaining customer service levels, the success or failure of my customer is going to have some impact on my own longevity as an organization. If we can't maintain successful customers, we're going to have a hard time keeping in business ourselves. So keeping in mind these 3 S's of the customer is critically important. All right, now I want to talk a little bit about making sure that we create the right supply chain for our firm and for our customers. So let's consider an organization that's got both innovative product and functional product. And what do I mean by that? Innovative product would be product that has generally a very short life cycle, product life cycle. It's going to change over in terms of technology on a fairly regular basis. One of the easiest things to think of is cell phones. Cell phones have a short lifespan. They tend to turn over very frequently. Functional product is going to be something more like a toothbrush, toothpaste, probably toothpaste more so than toothbrushes. But it's got certain characteristics that are going to be unique. So innovative product, highly uncertain demand. We're not exactly sure what it's going to look like in the marketplace yet. Functional product, typically we have a lot of demand history. We're going to have a lot of confidence with regard to our forecast, and it should be fairly easy to predict what it's going to look like. Our functional product, again, people are going to brush their teeth at a fairly constant rate. We've got a pretty good understanding of how quickly people are going to be replenishing their toothpaste supply. We're not quite sure how often people are going to be replacing innovative products like the newest TVs, how popular electric cars are going to be, how popular certain cell phones and tablets might be as well. So in order to make sure that we can maintain the proper supply chain, having one supply chain in place to ship both innovative product and functional product isn't going to make a lot of sense. With innovative product, I want to make sure that I can be quick to react to different changes in demand. With functional product, I'm not necessarily concerned about being quick to react to a spike in demand or a decline in the demand because I don't expect to see that. With functional product, I'm more concerned with keeping the price of that product down for my end customer. So therefore, what I'm going to be doing is focusing on efficiency, driving cost out of the supply chain. So it's quite, it's necessary to consider having 2 different or even more supply chains operating for one firm at one time. So I may want to run with an efficient supply chain or responsive supply chain. An efficient supply chain for an innovative product is not a good mix, okay? We don't want that. Efficient supply chain is going to be focused on consistency with regard to the lead time. It's going to be focused on driving cost out. With my innovative product, in order to make sure that I can keep my cost down, I need a fairly consistent lead time. I'm not going to be able to make changes to my supply chain on a fairly regular basis, and I'm not going to be able to react to those changes. An efficient supply chain is perfect for a functional product. Again, I'm just concerned about cost. From a responsive standpoint, again, that's where I'm going to be wanting to send my innovative products. and the functional products. Again, I'm not going to need a responsive supply chain. One might say I should always strive for a responsive supply chain in order to meet the needs of my customer. I would argue you're not necessarily going to be able to do that successfully, because by creating a responsive supply chain, a responsive that's able to be lean and agile, is not going to allow you to keep your cost down. Keeping the cost down is critical to maintaining your spot in the market for functional product. So how do we do this? What I will say is that companies are typically very, very bad at doing this. It's very easy to get your set of logistics service providers and your warehouse in place in order to make sure that I can move all my product and I can take advantage of economies of scale and ship large amounts of boxes, create full truckloads, take advantages of efficiencies when it comes to modes of transportation. But when you do that, again, you ignore some of your customers that are more focused on needing a responsive supply chain. So important to keep that in mind. Well, from a logistics standpoint, how do we know? How do we know which products are going to need to have a responsive supply chain, which products are going to need to have an efficient supply chain? Well, the first thing I can look to is, what does the demand look like? What's the demand history? Do I have a fairly steady pattern of demand, or does it fluctuate regularly? The other big thing that I need to look at is my customer expectations. Are all customers created equal? Certainly not. Should all customers be treated equally? Certainly not. But in order for a logistics operation to understand, well, which customers are we going to treat with a responsive supply chain, which customers are we going to treat with an efficient supply chain, I'm going to need to be able to communicate effectively with my marketing department. So therefore, we get in a situation where marketing and logistics integration is critical. Why is marketing and logistics integration critical? Because this is where we learn which customers need which things. Imagine that you are working in a warehouse for Amazon. Amazon's got different types of customers. If you are an Amazon Prime customer, you know that for a lot of the products that are Prime eligible, you can get that product in 2 days. But if I'm not paying for that Prime membership, and the product, I order the product, somebody picks it from the warehouse, and they go to send it to me, they may need to differentiate that product and differentiate the process to make sure that I'm not getting something that I'm not paying for. So therefore, I've got two different operations working out of the same warehouse, and I need to be able to differentiate my customers accordingly. So I'm going to need to make sure information sharing is taking place. Now, it sounds very simple. Well, obviously, we need information sharing. Companies are not very good at this. We tend to get into silos. Marketing people like to talk to marketing people. Logistics people tend to like to talk to logistics people. And oftentimes, they're working in environments that aren't necessarily close to one another. So when we get in a situation like that, then information starts to flow a little bit more slowly or not at all. Having information shared directly between marketing and logistics is critical for maintaining the expectations and being able to meet the expectations of my customers. If I can't do that, everything that I've done with regard to customer relationship management and developing this huge database of information about my customers and collecting information about income levels, demographics, creating differentiated pricing is going to mean nothing. So information sharing is critical, and that allows us to fulfill our demand. Again, keep in mind, you saw this in the textbook, marketing we typically refer to as the group that's going to be taking care of demand creation. And logistics is demand fulfillment. Think back to last week. Last week you saw a video which was an announcement from Amazon. Amazon, in the fall of 2015, at the Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals annual global conference, announced Amazon Flex. And what is Amazon Flex? It's a new way for Amazon to fulfill demand. What are they doing? They've essentially established Uber for packages. So in certain markets, you can sign up, and for $18, $20 an hour, you can pick up a package from an Amazon fulfillment center or from a supplier, put it in your car, make the delivery to the final customer, and you're paid by Amazon to do that. Well, when you think about a process like that, and you're working for Target or you're working for Walmart, what does that do to you from a strategy standpoint? You know, here it is, again, getting back to the customer. Amazon has figured out a way to meet the expectations of the customer. One of the goals associated with doing that is you place an order online, you can have it within just a few hours. Can you do that when you order from Target or from Walmart? No, you can't do that. But I'll tell you what, in my conversations with executives at both Walmart, Target, and other retailers, the person who can figure out how to effectively provide product to their customers in a time frame that competes head-to-head with companies like Amazon, I mean, that's the billion-dollar idea. It's very difficult to do that, but what we've done is we've used logistics, and Amazon is a prime example of a company that has used logistics operations and logistics capabilities to set customer expectations. And they've created an opportunity to differentiate customers through differentiated pricing. And that's all come from a logistics capability. Logistics is clearly a strategic part of customer relationship management for companies like Amazon. And I hate to keep referring to Amazon, but they truly are a market leader in this area. A lot of other companies are trying to figure out their own way of using logistics to create that competitive advantage in the marketplace. So my challenge to you as students in Supply Chain 560 is, put some thought into this. For whatever company that you're working for, either now or plan to work for down the road, how can you use logistics to create a competitive advantage in the marketplace? And once you figure that out, how do you tie that back to your marketing group? And how do you create differentiated pricing and create a profit model that's going to work for your organization? That's all I've got for today. Thanks.